How's it going, everyone? Just making sure we got everything set and rolling. Make sure both cameras are working properly. Trying to make sure I've got camera for the unboxing and camera on me coordinated the way it should be. Alright, perfect. Turn this down so we don't get an echoing feedback. Alright, so we've got 3 starter packs here. Sorry, not starter packs, pre-release packs. So if you're not familiar, essentially Magic the Gathering pre-release packs, there's 6 standard what they call draft packs, since they have since created a collector pack. So these are draft packs. And then there's 6 packs. There's also usually a promotional art rare as well. And then basically you would open all of these and then create a 40 card deck from what you pulled to compete in a tournament called a pre-release tournament, obviously, in the group that you're with. But unfortunately, Magic has decided that there's not any formalized events, so there aren't really any pre-release tournaments to go to. So I picked up some packs and we'll do some openings, see what we got. Alright, so first is our spin down dice. Typical, so it's not a classic D20, it's a spin down, so it's done in synchronized order rather than opposite randomized order, like if you're doing D&D and other stuff would have. Alright, so we've got a pack here. And then our promotional, oh nice. So we've got the Saga Raven's Warning. It's a blue-white rare saga. You see they're all stamped with the pre-release weekend of the set pre-release. Very cool. Alright, and promotional information on the set. Usually there's some tips and tricks in here as far as how to build your pre-release deck, and then a little bit of promotional art on the back. And then what's also included on the other side of this would be an arena code, where you can redeem the code for it should be 6 packs of Kaldheim in Arena. I'm not going to flip it because people can use it before I get the chance to, so I just want to keep that safe for me. I might raffle some of these codes off because usually the user is limited 1 once we hit some milestones on the following, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so we've got first pack here. Okay, so we got Elf Warrior token. Alright, start with our commons. Got Brian Barrow Intruder. Valor of the Worthy. Part Thoreau, another blue. Storm Raider for red. Sentinel in green. Black Disciple. Our third blue common. enchantment. Makes it every creature type for tribal. Artifact. Gold vein pick. And the red for removal. That's our last common there. And the first uncommon is one of the lands with essentially sorcery activated abilities that combo with another color. So this is the Simic or blue-green one. Replicating ring, fun uncommon. It's nice for mana fixing, but every upkeep of yours, you get to put a counter on the ring. If when it reaches 8 or more, you remove all of them, and then you create 8 colorless snow artifact tokens with the same name. So, interesting thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this takes off in some commander decks. It might even take off in some of the other formats as well, just with how much it's able to mana fix and accelerate for you if you can get the right things to support it. And we got black, Bloody Berserker. There's a lot of, when you cast your second spell, support cards in this set release. Alright, then we've got our rare is Skimfar Avenger. It's part of the elf group. Whenever another non-token elf or berserker you control dies, draw a card and lose life. So a way to get some card draw going in either an elf or berserker tribe. Cool. And then we got a snow-covered plains to help with snow support. Another big theme with this set. And pack number 2. I know as far as organizing with a pre-release when you're opening it kind of in tournament, I usually break it down by color first and then kind of go over what I've got after that. Some people do it differently. It pays to kind of pay attention, keep in mind of what colors seem to have the most, removal and control versus powerful creatures or other powerful enchantments. So you kind of know what your go-tos are going to be when you start breaking down for deck building. Usually you only get 30 to 45 minutes for pack opening and building in a formalized tournament like that. Alright, doing decent. So far with these packs, seems like blue and green, you have a lot of choices. There's been some strength in black though. Too high on the camera. You guys have questions about cards or anything, throw it on the chat. I'm happy to re-show anything or clarify if you're having trouble reading it. Scarecrow card with a foretell is 0, so you can actually bring it out with just the foretell cost of 2. Just takes 2 turns to do it. Alright, here's another one of those 2-color utility land. This one, you destroy a land and make a green troll warrior with trample. That's 4/4. So pretty cool. It is pretty late game though, because you're going to need 7 lands total. So this land and then 6 more for the activation cost. A snow creature for the snow abilities. Gives you some card advantage if you're playing with a lot of other snow cards as well. Another snow creature here. Creature spell. I guess you can coordinate it and get counters on it with other snow support. And then our rare is the Burning Rune Demon. So another black rare. Search your library. 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon that have different names. And the opponent chooses one of those cards. The chosen card goes in your hand, other into your graveyard. So Some interesting tutor ability. You probably would need to have some graveyard impact or support with your deck based upon what you want to pick out there, so you can still get something in. But it's still a 6/6 flyer for 6 also, so not terrible, especially in a limited format. That fact alone would probably win some games there. Alright, and another snow-covered plains. Alright, we got a 1/1 bird token with this one. Okay, so we got Doomscar. So typically, things that I look for with the deck building, removal, probably key as far as the non-creature spells, because that really makes the difference in being able to keep yourself going and alive. And then creatures with value. So creatures that, it's not just a creature with a power and toughness, it's a creature that with the cost gets you some additional upside for it. And the more you can coordinate that, the better. And then the next thing that you want to look for is evasion with your creature damage. So things like flying, trample, menace, any other less common abilities that essentially allow the creature to get the combat damage through more effectively. So all of your attacks are actually going to work in the end. I'm trying to see, this isn't focusing for some reason. Yeah, come on. There we go. Because evasion wins games. I've seen lots of times, all they have is just weak flyers, but because the flyers can't be blocked unless you have a flying or a reach creature, all the damage gets through. They never have to worry about their attacks. And they can successfully take their opponents out between their evasion damage and then a few other control spells to either remove or shut down whatever their opponent's playing. Lindworm. So 6 for a 6/6. You gain 4 life instead of it being a 6/6 trample common, but still potentially enough to turn around a game at the end. And that's the type of stuff you want to look for is, cards with upside, not just power and toughness, but what else do I get with the creature as well. So we've got a alternate art uncommon here, Moriette of the Frost. It's a legendary snow creature. See if we can get that text to focus. There we go. So you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a permanent you control, except it's legendary and snow, in addition to other types. If it's a creature, then it enters with 2 additional +1/+1 counters and has changeling. So pretty cool. Set this up here. We got another one of those additional benefit lands. Black-white this time. 4/4 White Angel Creature Warrior with flying and vigilance. Only costs 4 lands for it, so that's pretty effective. Keep in mind with those lands you are sacrificing the land as part of the ability, not just simply tapping it. And our dwarf uncommon equipment. Alright, our rare is Reckless Crew. Create X 2/1 Dwarf Berserker creature tokens for X's number of vehicles and equipment you control. for each of those tokens, you may attach an equipment you control to it. So pretty cool if you're running a lot of equipments or vehicles. Otherwise, it's kind of a dud rare, unfortunately. And then we got a snow-covered swamp for it, so we finally got something to support the other strong color that we really had a lot in. Alright, so this is pack number 4. So, got treasure token for the set. Alright. Run through commons here. Come on. Let's see. Best placement for text. I guess if you can't find actual removal or control spells, instant combat tricks are probably the next best thing. Unfortunately, you got to do a lot of bluffing and baiting for them to work as removal spells, especially if you're trying to be aggressive still. If you're just playing defensive, it's a little easier to depend upon those, but the problem becomes you're potentially leaving yourself open to other damage coming through on you and missing out the chance to get your opponent worn down while you can. Big beefy blocker or a utility crew member for vehicles. Alright, now we got our uncommons. So potentially good, potentially bad, depending on the situation in your game. Making everyone sacrifice 2 creatures. Not bad, get a little permanent return with a 3/3 flyer body. Probably better being foretold rather than the regular casting cost, but things that you gotta look at when you're building your deck. We've got the common blue-white saga. Then for our rare, got the Elvish War Master. Triggers some additional elves, but unfortunately you only can trigger it once each turn, so you can't stack it with a bunch of elf abilities, but you can still get some extras, and then nice beef for late game mana use to give all your elves a buff with Death Touch. So fun for that. And we got a snow-covered island, and then we got our first foil in the pack, which is a rare Realm Walker Shapeshifter. Enters the battlefield. You choose a creature type. You may look at the top card of your library, and then you may cast spells with chosen creature type from the top of your library. So it gives you some potential card advantage that way if you're playing tribal. Very cool utility tribal support there. Alright, so just an advertisement card, no token with that. Another boast ability. So far, I still feel a good amount of the strengths in black. Blue's got some play around work for it. Depending on creature types, I think green's got a lot of potential tribe support if you can find it. What the creature types are amongst the colors and cards you're playing. This one's interesting. It's a typical discard 2 card spell. However, if your opponent just has fewer than 2 cards that were discarded, you draw the difference. It's actually like a mind rate. I can't think of the name for it. But the typical discard 2 cards, but there's an upside if their hand isn't full enough for that. So it's not a lost spell like some of them end up being if you draw it late game. Another instant combat trick. And this one, beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. If you need like life gain or life drain support, that's definitely a good one with it. Here's our last common for this pack. Alright, we got our uncommons. We got our black-red saga at uncommon. Another legendary human wizard with some scrying and card advantage. If you can control that trigger with 3 creatures dying. Rune crowned, potentially good if you're actually playing with the runes. Alright, in the rare slot we have Waking the Trolls. It's the green-red saga at the rare spot. Alright, and we got Snowland that's dual. Even though it's not a basic land, it still has the land types listed, so anything that allows you to fetch for a certain land type, it still helps you with that trigger. And so it's a dual land that does come in tapped, but it is a snow land with your land types on there, so neat mechanic for this set. And we got a foil common, Breakneck Berserker. Last pack for this box. Alright, so no things, so we've probably got some good things hiding in this one. Alright, we got our uncommons, commons. Bind the monster. Go back and forth on how good this is in limited. It does tap down a creature when it enters the battlefield. However, the catch is when you enchant the creature, it's going to deal damage equal to its power to you as well. It keeps the creature tapped, but you're going to be taking a hit from that creature's power. I actually had someone, I was trying to tap down a big 7-something trample, hit it with this. I had enough life to absorb the 7 damage, but then they hit it with an instant power up that made it like 10 or 11 damage that killed me outright. So not always the best go-to for removal if you've got other options in your limited pool, but if you can use it on something smaller, sometimes it's a little easier for the early game control risk. This is our last common. Alright, uncommons, another boast. Another one of those utility lands. This one deals 3 damage to target player, and that player discards a card. Looks like it does cost you a total of about 5 lands, so you got the sacrifice plus 4 for the activation cost. And then in our rare slot, we landed an alternate art Kaldheim, God of Kinship. Try and get this in focus for you because the artwork's pretty cool. So it's a 2/4. If you control 3 or more legendary creatures, Kaldheim gets +4/+2 and vigilance, so it becomes a 6/6. And tap 2, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a legendary creature card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Then our flip side, Ringheart Crest, choose a creature type, you add a green, spend this mana, only cast a creature spell of the chosen type or a legendary spell. So some decent tribal ramp and other support if you're playing a lot of different legendary creatures. Probably going to see this one a lot in commander decks, just because usually most of your creatures end up being some sort of legendary type or a full tribe focus. A pretty cool pull there. We got another dual snowland, this time Swamp Mountain. And the token this time is for cards like there are rare that are double faced. You can put this in if you're not playing with sleeves. Alright, so that is our first pre-release pack. Looked like black had a decent amount of power in there. Green had a lot, like I said, green had a lot of tribal support power. So if you can find enough of the same creature type in there, might have been what we would end up building around for that. And just keep in mind, it doesn't matter how good your promotional rare is. Sometimes you're just not going to get the right stuff in packs to support it. And you have to play with what you got. Unfortunately, that's why they call it limited, because it is limited on what you're given. Let's look at box number 2 here. So we got spin down dice, green again. Typically these colors are different throughout boxes. I'm not sure if they're still doing that or not. So our promotion, open this and get some glare down. Goldspan Dragon. It's a 4/4 flying haste for 5. Whenever Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes target of a spell, create a treasure token. And then treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one color. So it helps double the mana that you get from your treasures. So really cool if you've got the build around it. Still being a 4/4 flying haste for 5, still really good in limited play. This would definitely help you quite a bit. And the fact that it can help you potentially ramp into other things doesn't hurt either. So cool. Hopefully this one has enough pulls that we could actually play red for it. Let's see what we've got in our packs. Alright, our token card is just a promotional card. Let's see what else we've got. Red Giant. Decent body, but there's some downside with can't block alone. Some boasting tap control. Potential, like I said, combat trick or removal, making everything else block a different creature. And got control card, can't attack, block, or crew vehicles, which is always important with vehicle set. And it can't activate abilities either, unless it can still do mana abilities, but this shuts down quite a few things, which is pretty helpful. So good, especially in limited play. Can you turn off the overhead light? Got a Raven form. So Vault Robber, kind of a roundabout way to get some extra mana because you tap, exile a creature card from your graveyard and make treasure tokens. It does cost both 1 mana plus him tapping, but if you're coordinated with something like that dragon, it could potentially be very fruitful for you later. Nice removal, and this one is exile, not just destroy. So very beneficial for getting around a lot of the indestructible abilities. And it's instant speed, which is always nice, and it targets both creature or planeswalker. So not too bad. Got a snow permanent that if you've got other snow mana production, you can tap artifacts or creatures for control. First uncommon of this pack. Okay, so 2/5 with its options. Either each opponent loses X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. This is an elf cleric, so it would work with the elf tribe. Or you can gain X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control. So it's a tribal support. Either you drain your opponent, or you get to pick life gain for yourself. So cool if you definitely have enough tribal support for it. 2/5 body, still pretty good for blocking stuff though. Dual strike. So if you cast your next instant sorcery, it has to be 4 or less, you can copy it and choose new targets. Potentially fun if you have enough things to work with it. And our rare, we've got this is one of the big ones people have been talking about, Reflections of Littjara. It enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. So huge for tribal support. So every spell starts getting copied, your tribe just explodes with value and upside with this one. So fun card. Don't know with what I've seen so far if it would really be playable, but we've still got a few more packs left as far as limited play goes. Then we've got a snow-covered island, and then a foil colossal plow. It's a uncommon. When it attacks, you get 3 mana and 3 life. That 3 mana stays with you until your end step, so you're not going to lose it after combat. The only challenge is it does take 6 to crew for a 6/3. So maybe good, maybe bad, depending on what your support and play focus is. Alright. Card fixing for you. Some card advantage as well. One drop first strike with some boast. Interesting big drop. It is a giant for some of the giant tribe, 5/6. It does have flash, but he enters the battlefield tapped, so I'm not overly sure the upside with that, other than the fact that you can leave 6 mana open during your player's turn for counter spells and stuff. And if they decide to play things that you don't need to counter, you can drop this guy instead, but not a combat trick for sure, since he comes into play on tap, or into play tapped. Snow creature with some benefit, if you've got the snow permanents to support it. Another elf. You can tap creatures for mana with him, but you gotta tap him and another creature to do it. Village Rites reprint. Seen a couple of those. Another elf that targets snow lands to untap. And is a snow permanent in its own right as well. Another theft spell for red. They can also destroy the equipment that's attached to the creature at the end of the attack, as long as it hits for damage. Elf warrior, larger body, produces another elf when he enters. That's our last common. Our uncommons. We got Rootless Yew Tree Folk. When he dies, you search your library for a creature card with power or toughness 6 or greater, reveal it, put it into your hand. So interesting card. It's 5 for a 5/4, which is a decent body. But the fact that it has the upside of, if your opponent decides to kill it, you're going to search for a potentially bigger, better creature, can really make them think twice about whether they want to kill it or just try and do chump blocking with that threat on the board. So interesting. Really good if your limited pool has, something with a 6 or greater body to support that search. We've got a snow, that's legendary creature, Troll Warrior. And so 3, and create a colorless snow artifact named Icy Manolith. That allows you to produce any color. And it's a snow artifact, so you're making more snow permanents. And then it's here for 8, tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its cost. Rest go on bottom in the random order. So interesting ramp ability, as well as a filter ability once you've got enough land to ramp. So interesting potential there. I'd be curious to see where he sees play at. The 3 for a 2/4 body isn't terrible either in limited play, especially if you can help yourself ramp as you go through. Alright, here's a guy who's looking for boast creature supports, because whenever you activate a boast ability, he gets a +1/+1 counter. rare slot is white. It's a sweep, destroy all creatures for 5, or you can foretell it for 2, then 3 instead. So some interesting utility in that one. Probably see a lot of play in structured, since there's a lot of control decks that already like the sweepers. Then we've got a snow-covered forest in our land spot. Alright, next pack. Alright, we got Tiger Kel's Emblem. Whenever you cast an elf spell, it gains haste until end of turn, and you draw 2 cards. Nice. Let's see what the cards are. Interesting body. Some graveyard return for white, which is interesting. Especially since you're getting an artifact or enchantment back from it. Some situational counterspell. Another green hate for flying and artifacts and enchantments. We got this focused, decent toughness, so it's 6 for a 3/7, so good for blocking. And then you tap 2, it exile a creature card from your graveyard, and target opponent loses 3 life. So decent defensive card late game with that big 7 toughness. Don't know how aggressive he could be for only being able to swing for 3 life. Probably better just leave him as defense and then potentially use the tap ability if you've sacrificed enough creatures leading up to that. So definitely check your strategy with that first. So some graveyard return, but you need to mill yourself first. Now the beauty is it does have upside. If you don't have the land or elf card to trigger the return, you get to draw a card instead. So not terrible. There's that Bind the Monster again. Like I said, kind of a situational good card. Sometimes it's bad, depending on what your opponent's got coming at you. And a card that helps you ramp into more artifacts and enchantments. Land or artifact removal that gives you an extra treasure token. Our last common. This is one again where when you cast, so second spell upside, he gets a +1/+1 counter and flying until end of turn. Alright, our first uncommon, another legendary creature, giant wizard. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess damage. If a giant wizard or spell you control dealt damage to it this turn, you get to draw a card. So you get some upside for having excess damage being dealt to your opponent's creatures and planeswalkers, which is pretty cool. And then another legendary creature, Dwarf Warrior. Another non-token creature you control dies if it was enchanted or equipped. You get to return it to its owner's hand, so that's pretty cool. Creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1, so additional boost with that equip or enchantment support. If I can get that focused better. Unfortunately, it's having a hell of a time capturing the script. Alright, and then we got another one of those late utility lands, this time in blue-red. You get to sacrifice it. You scry 2 and deals 2 damage to each creature. So some potential upside there. Looks like it does cost a total of 5 plus the sacrifice, so 6 total lands to do it. Alright, then we've got our black-red vampire dragon. 3/3 flying for 4. Now when it becomes tapped, you get to exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard, so it doesn't have to be yours. And you get a +1/+1 counter on him. You can sacrifice another creature, and he gets indestructible until end of turn. You do have to tap it though, so he's not completely free for everything. But still pretty cool body, good fun ability, especially in limited. 3/3 flying for 4 is definitely a big thing. And it's part red, so it could go well with that promotional one that we got in the package as well. And then we got a snow-covered mountain to boot. Alright, we're halfway through these packs. Let's see what else this set has. Alright, replicated ring token. Let's see what our pulls are here. So some card draw with treasure upside. A fun 1-drop for white. It's a 1/2 flying with first strike. We got another snow creature here, giant wizard. Get that focus going. There we go. Shapeshifter puts a counter on target creature. So potential tribal support with some growth on if there's key creatures that you want to make better and bigger. And it's that discard again with upside for you if it's late. Some graveyard return. You get bonus return if they share a creature type. Another snow creature for blue that if you've got the snow mana for it, you can make it unblockable for the turn. Not bad on a 3/3 body for 4. And we got some artifact enchantment removal with some life gain. Wolf with the card draw, 3/3 on a 4 body, or you can foretell it out for 2. Not terrible, decent. Card draw is helpful and limited. And then another flash creature. This one, essentially you're sacrificing a creature to deal combat damage to something, and then you're popping this guy in because he deals. When he enters the battlefield, he destroys target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. So another combat trick. Unfortunately, like I said, unfortunately you have to have something sacrificial to throw damage down on something else, but it can get rid of things if you need to, especially in limited play where it's sometimes hard to find those full removal spells. Now we got our uncommons in the pack. We got a foretell, angel cleric, 2/3 flying, death touch and haste. Usual cost is 4, or you can foretell it for 2. We got our green-white dual utility land. Only costs total of 4, and you get to put +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. They gain vigilance and lifelink until end of turn. So decent upside as long as you've got the opportunity to take advantage of the lifelink there for the attack. Alright, and we got enchant creature. They can return other artifacts or equipments for you as an option as well. Alright, in the rare slot we got Tergrid, God of Fright. He is a 4/5 menace. Try and get this to zoom and focus. I don't know why it's showing glare. I have no glare here. Alright, whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So pretty cool with that. Flip side, we got Tergrid's Lantern. Tap, target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. And then you can pay 4 to untap it, so you can keep doing it over and over again if you got the mana. Cool, fun god, fun card. Good power there. And then we got a Plains Mountain Snowland for the land on that pack. Alright, token card is a zombie berserker, not just a zombie. So we got 2 creature types there. Get that focus. There we go. Alright. Through. Interesting troll group. I think we've seen most of these commons by now already. This one's an interesting card, Zombie Rogue. When he enters, you look at the top card of target player's library. You have the option to put that card into their graveyard. So you can do it for yourself. You can do it for your opponent if you know that they've got something coming that you want to get rid of also. Unfortunately, it doesn't have flash, so you really got to pay attention. Kind of removal here. You enchant a creature. The creature gets base power 0. And then has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life unless you sacrifice this creature. So a good way to get rid of something, or at least if they still want to keep it around, maybe it's got other abilities, they're going to pay some life along the way for it to keep it. So, decent card in limited. Alright, another one that, again, you have to force it to be blocked after pumping it up. Artifact enchantment removal again. Sorcery makes 2 dwarf tokens for 4 or a foretell of 2. We got a null reprint, counter target artifact or enchantment spell. A little fight ability. For 4 it gets a +1/+1 counter, and then fights, or its foretell is only 1. So you can potentially sneak it out with foretell 2 ability, and then pay 1 when you want to do the fight later in the game. We have a vehicle here, Funeral Longboat. It is a 3/3 with vigilance. Cruise only takes 1 though, so some decent potential there if you can coordinate that. That way you can potentially attack and block each turn with it, as long as you've got the 1/1s to crew it along the way. That was our last common. First uncommon. It's a snow creature, human wizard. You can make snow lands 4/4 elemental creatures with hexproof and haste until end of turn. So fun utility there if you can get the snow lands with it. Alright, and this is a 2 damage to each creature that will actually exile them if they die. Instead of going to the graveyard. That can be foretold and only done for 1. So interesting plays possibilities there depending on what you end up pulling for your creatures. Then we got another land utility. You gain 2 life, draw 2 cards. It does cost 5 plus the sacrifice. So a little hefty, but again, if it's late game, you got nothing else to do with the mana, definitely good good choice. And this looks like it's one of the few that isn't limited, doing it at the time of a sorcery. I think this is one of the only ones I've seen that doesn't have that, so you can do it as a instant anytime rather than being restricted to sorcery time only. So there is that upside on this one. Alright, then our rare, we got Haunting Voyage. Just to focus for you. Cost 6, choose a creature type. Return up to 2 creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the spell was foretold, you return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield instead. So real cool. So it's obviously a major tribal support, but pretty awesome graveyard return abilities there for you as well. So cool. And then our land was a dual snow land, so it's a plain island for that. Alright, then we got last pack for this pre-release kit. Alright. We got that hawk again that allows you to draw and discard with the snow land. Got a Dwarf Berserker that can tap and give another creature haste, but it's also a 2 for 2/2, so decent bear body. Alright, a Berserker that comes back with a human as a human warrior. So 2-for-1s are decent low cost creatures. Another snow creature with snow permanent upside if you've got it. Alright, there's that elf that will tap other creatures for mana. Alright, this is equipment. Your creature gets +1/+1, but if your equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you get to make treasure tokens. So potential fun support if you can get that going. Alright, we got nice red removal, Demon Bolt, 4 damage for 3 to target creature or planeswalker, which you notice the foretell is 1, so some nice fun utility. It's also an instant with that spell for red, so fun burn spell. Conditional burn spells, creature has to be tapped, but you get to deal 5 damage for it, and it's another one again, foretell for 1. So fun utility options with the foretell ability here, if you're willing to be patient. Another life drain enchantment, triggered at the end step. Alright, and our first uncommon. So again, that's we saw it in the last group. Each player sacrifices 2 creature for 5 or foretell for 1 less. It is an instant speed, so there's that fun functionality as well too. And we got Shepherd. That's the graveyard return to something with 2 less with the foretell of a much cheaper upside. And we got the uncommon Blue-White Saga. Alright, and then our rare. So we landed an Icebreaker Kraken. Cost 10 and 2 blue, so 12 total. But it does cost 1 less to cast for each snow land you control. And then so you could potentially, for 6, get this guy out, if I'm counting right, if you have the right snow lands. And then when Icebreaker Kraken enters the battlefield, artifacts and creatures target opponent controls don't untap during that player's next untap step. You can also return 3 snow lands you control to their owner's hands, and then you return Icebreaker to your hand as well. So it's something, if you've got the right amount of lands to support it, you can really keep this guy coming back for more and putting hammer down on your opponent. Fun little snow support there. And then we got a snow-covered swamp. Then we ended up with a foil as well. That is another snow mountain plains land there. On there. Alright, last box here. You can do more to keep them out of here and keep them quiet. Alright, let's get this bad boy opened. Alright, so dice, we got a different color finally. So, nice red one there. Our promotional is the Gruel Saga, waking the trolls, not walking. Fun there. Out. Sure got everything good. Alright, let's see what our pull is in this last round. Alright, token is another treasure. Alright, now if it's a kind we've seen already, I'm probably just going to work on cranking through some of these. Run amok reprint. Wings of the Cosmos. Spider, this one's actually different because it's actually a 4-2 with the power being more than the toughness. Most spiders are usually more defensive, so interesting turnaround on that one. Deathbell Berserker, if you've got something that'll power him up, you get a zombie when he dies, because he has to have a 3 power for that trigger to happen. Here's a fun one. It's a human warrior for 3. His boast is 2. And it allows you to search for land. So you can potentially search for a land every turn he attacks. Which can be beneficial as long as you don't have other things that you want to cast each turn. Here's our Feed the Serpent, another removal spell. Doesn't seem to come up often, so definitely take advantage of it when you see it. Our Vault Robber treasure token maker again. And that Iron Verdict. He seems to be a lot more common. Alright, uncommons. We got Weathered Runestone. Non-land permanent cards and graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. And then players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. So a little sideboard control action on some of the other effects out there. John, who's pawing at the door? Alright, then we got our land here. Looks like we get 5 plus the sacrifice. And then create a token that's a copy of target creature. So if it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. And again, this is limited to sorcery time. So that last land we saw, big upside to it is you can do it whenever you want. 1-drop for white with a boast that can keep making other tokens. And it's a 2/1 1-drop, so that's always fun. 2/1 1-drop that can even do something else for itself turn 2. Alright, and then we got Alrund's Epiphany. Sorcery creates 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens with flying, and you get to take an extra turn after this one. And then you exile it. It costs 7 or a foretell for 6. So interesting potential for you there. John, get him out before he shits everywhere. Oh, and then we got the same snow land, one as a regular and then one as a foil, the plain swamp. Get these, trying to be more focused here. Alright, next pack. Alright, seen this guy quite a bit. Little card advantage with his boast ability. You exile the top card of your library for 1. You may play that card for the turn, or until end of turn. There's that mana elf again. Zombie clerics, snow upside. Another shapeshifter. Here's a red damage spell. It's 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. It's a snow instant, but if you have 3 or more snow permanents, it'll deal 3 damage instead of 2. So decent removal with more upside if you've got the snow permanents to support it. Just make sure you've got the right amount of snow permanents if you're counting it to be 3 damage instead of 2. Alright, here's our first uncommon for the pack. Whenever you cast your second spell upside, you make another 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. And the legendary creature, Vega the Watcher, 2/2 bird spirit with flying. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you draw a card. So that would be your foretell spells, probably specifically what it's looking for, in addition to any other abilities you can stack with that as well. Alright, we got Divine Gambit. This exiles target artifact, creature, or enchantment an opponent controls, but that player may put a permanent card from their hand onto the battlefield. So it can be a little bit of a gamble. You got to watch your timing with that. Maybe do it when they don't have a hand, or if you already know what's in their hand, that you're truly getting the better thing out of the way. Alright, and then in our rare spot, we've got alternate art, Jorn, God of Winter. He's a 3/3 for 3, so a big bear. And then whenever he attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. And he is a snow creature as well. And then the other side, in spite of him being green on this side, looks like it's going to be black and blue with 1 more to cast. You got Kaldheim the Rime Staff. It's a legendary snow artifact. You tap it and you may play target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn, but it enters the battlefield tapped if you do. So not bad. Interesting upsides for graveyard play. It's pretty cool art with the alternate rune there. And then we got a snow-covered mountain for the land. We had a common foil, Pegasus, that makes artifacts and enchantments cheaper along the way. token. Got strategic planning for card advantage and filtering. Our pup again. There's a nice 2/2 lifelink body. So again, bear with upside. So snow creature, ice troll, 2/3 for 3. If you've got the 2 snow lands to pay for it, he gets +2. Gains indestructible on turn until end of turn, but he does tap after that. So here's our Wither Crown again, the one that negates the creature's power, but they either have to sacrifice it or lose a life every upkeep. Got a flying equipment here, gives +1/+0 flying, and it becomes a bird for as far as creature types go, in case you wanted to play bird tribal. Alright, there's a graveyard return with tribal upside because you get 2 if they share a creature type. Our artifact enchantment destruction with life gain. Dwarven reinforcements again. Another annul. Alright, first uncommon. Got Basalt Ravager, 4/4/2 giant wizard. When he enters the battlefield, deals X damage to any target, or acts as greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. So some tribal upside. Obviously you're probably either going with wizards or giants there to trigger that if you're trying to use them for that ability. We got Drugger's Helm. Gives +2/+2 in menace. You can pay an extra 3 to put this is Black Zombie Berserker on it. So you're essentially paying 5 for a 4/4 with menace at that point. Alright, Lit Jara Glade Warden. So another changeling. You tap 3 tap it, exile target creature card from your graveyard, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. You can only activate it at a sorcery speed though. And our rare, we've got the Red-Black Saga. It's called Blood Sky Massacre. So we need a little better focus. There we go. You get a 2/3 red demon berserker with menace. Whenever a berserker attacks this turn, you get to draw a card and you lose a life. And add 1 red for each berserker you control until end of turn, and you don't lose it. And you don't lose the mana as steps and phases end, so that's cool. A little card advantage for an extra creature. Alright, and then we got a snow-covered swamp. Alright, our token is just a promotional card. Unfortunate. Alright, got our thief there. Berserker that boasts for some card advantage. Dwarf Warrior, you can boast him to get a +1/+1 counter. That's not bad, you can help him get bigger. /3/1 lifelink. When it dies, each player mills 3 cards. Also an elf. There's that Ice-Eye Troll again. Squash is fun, especially if you're playing tribal. It's 5. total, but it costs 3 less if you control a giant, and it deals 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and it's an instant. So potentially for 3, you're dealing 6 damage to a creature or planeswalker, which is pretty good as far as cost to benefit goes there. We got a big bear elf warrior here, 5 for 5/5. You got buying the monster again. Like I said, very conditional on whether this is good or bad for control. Alright, we got that courser. Again, makes enchantments and artifacts cheaper. Scarecrow shows up at the end. Alright, we got a Snow Angel Flying Trample for 2/2, 4. Then 2 snow lands, he gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And next one, we got Path to the World Tree. When this enters, you can search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and then the other one is 2 + 1 of each color. You sacrifice this, you gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, target opponent loses 2 life. Path to the World Tree deals 2 damage to up to 1 target creature, and you get a 2/2 green bear creature token. It's a whole bunch of stuff if you want to swing for all the colors in your pool. Alright, and you got the Shapeshifter Legendary Uncommon. This is one that comes in as a copy of a permanent. And then it gets 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it as well. So you've got a good creature that you want to copy. You can copy it, and it'll be a little bit bigger with the additional counters on top of that. So some extra upside. And then in the rare slot, we've got Calamity Bearer. It's a giant berserker, 3/4. This one's fun. If a giant source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. So easily doubling the output from all your giants. So real fun if you can get enough giants to support this. And then our land is a snow-covered mountain forest. Alright, last 2 packs here. Alright, there's that Undersea Invader, big body with flash, but he comes into play tapped for an odd reason. The Craven Hulk. Another Battlefield Raptor. Snow Creature, Giant Wizard, taps target artifact, and then keeps it tapped if you use snow to pay for the mana cost. Another Berserker with some upside. What's that? Token making troll, or dwarf, sorry, not troll, dwarf. Treasure making dwarf. There's another Feed the Serpent. It's a really good removal, but it's only the 3rd one we've seen so far. And even that common. There's that Ox for your equipments, or sorry, vehicles. And at worst case scenario, it's a big ass blocker at a 0/6 for 2. Alright, first uncommon here. We got the Black-Green Saga, Binding the Old Gods. It comes in with an immediate destroy target non-land permanent. Then you get to search your library for a forest card. And then the last one is creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn. So pretty good all-around support. Each one has its own upside without really having a whole lot of conditional base like some of the other sagas do. So really good saga if you're playing in those colors. Then we got another saga. This is the Black-White Ascent of the Worthy. So its first two, same thing, choose a creature you control. Until your next turn, all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control is dealt to that creature instead. Then the third is return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a flying counter on it. That creature is an angel warrior in addition to its other types. So good way to help redirect a lot of damage if you're trying to do either really defensive or just go all out to make them block things to keep from dying, and then all the damage gets directed to just that one creature instead. And one of them gets to come back at the end. Alright, last uncommon here. Icebind Pillar, snow conditional for controlling artifacts or creature tapping. And then our red is another Calamity Bearer. So this would actually be a very interesting pull here. At this point I would probably go for red and then try and do some sort of giant tribal with red and maybe one or two other colors to get the other giant support in there, because having two of that in there is pretty big deal in my opinion. Alright, then Snow Covered Plains. And we got a foil. Return Upon the Tide. It's an uncommon. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's an elf, you get 2 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens as well. So not only is it graveyard return, if you're playing elf tribal, you get even more bodies on top of it. So pretty awesome support card there. Forgot our token card is a Shapeshifter 2/2. Alright, here's the last pack from the batch. Alright, our token is a Elf Warrior. Alright, we got a bounce card, Depart the Realm, for a non-land permanent for 2 of the owner's hand. Can also foretell for 1. So saving up mana for conditions later. Our Raider here. Buffing enchantment, you get a 1/1 white spirit afterwards. This is a Shapeshifter with some upside if you're playing at least close to tribal. Because when he comes in, if you control 3 or more creatures that share a creature type, you get a +1/+1 counter and a scry 1 with his enter the battlefield trigger. So a boast creature with some graveyard play, so you get to return creatures from graveyard to your hand. With the boast ability, and it's a 3/3 body, so there is a potential of him being able to attack some turns without an issue. So a combat trick for Mammoth Growth, it's +4/+4. Would cost 3, or you can do it foretell at 1. Instant speed. There's that gold vein pick again. Makes a treasure if the creature deals damage to a player. And does say combat damage specifically. A Raven with a foretell cost. Arachnoform. Alright, first uncommon of the last pack. Got Giant's Amulet, only costs 1. When it comes in, you can pay 4 and get a 4/4 blue giant wizard creature token attached to the amulet. The creature gets +0/+1 and this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped. So for 5, you're essentially getting a 4/5 hexproof creature as long as it stays untapped. So not terrible. It's only 2 to equip, so probably one of the better ones I've seen A lot of the other ones had a really high equip cost on their own. Alright, another blue. That's the Cosmos. Look at top 3 cards of your library, put 1 in hand, rest on the bottom. If you control a giant, you can cast this from your graveyard by paying just 1 blue rather than the mana cost. If you do it, you have to exile it. So if you're playing this with a giant tribal, you can get use out of this twice, which is pretty cool. Right, we got Doom's Scar Titan. It's another giant berserker. When he enters, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste. He costs 6 for a 4/4, or he's a foretell of 5. Not terrible. Pretty decent as far as limited actually goes. You could definitely turn around a game by being able to drop him in with haste, and then as well as a boost to all your other creatures for an attack in. And then our rare is Reflections of Littjara. I'm pretty excited about having 2 of these since I have a lot of tribal commander decks. So this is, again, you choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of that type, you get to copy the spell. So pretty cool. I'm happy. And we got a Snow-Covered Plains, and then we had a foil common. It's a zombie berserker. He enters, and then 2 creatures get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. It's another fun late game and limited to throw down, especially because they're getting indestructible. So you can for sure attack and potentially get some upside out of it. If they have to block it to stay alive, it helps you kill off hopefully some creatures. See if we can get that zoomed better. I think the foil's throwing it off just a little bit for focus. Alright, well, those were our pulls for the 3 pre-release boxes. And then I'll show our 3 promotional cards from the boxes. Let's just get that one over a little bit. So pretty cool pull. I'm happy that I got some of the rares that I did. Looking for some of them actually for some of the commander decks that I have in actual cardboard. But I'm excited for this set. I think it's got a decent amount of power in it to kind of change and impact some of the current meta standings for both standard, probably historic for sure. I've already heard a big shakeup going on in there. So it's a pretty good set overall, in my opinion. It should impact a lot of different play levels from standard down to commander and other legacy type things. Thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate everyone being on. As always, this week, since it is pre-release release week for Magic, all scheduled Magic events will be a Kaldheim limited event, so it'll either be a draft or a sealed event, depending on what we have access to when we log in. For this week, so that way everyone can see a little bit more about what Kaldheim has to offer. You can see a little bit more about limited play, get more ideas in that. It also gives me some time to organize some deck lists with the new standard and new historic build for Magic Arena. I appreciate you all. Thanks for coming. Please hit the follow so we can keep having fun together. Have a great day.